Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Mays MasterCast. I'm your host, Ben Wiggins, and this morning I would like to welcome our inaugural episode 1 guest, the outgoing Assistant Dean for Graduate Programs at Mays Business School, Mike Kinney. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. We appreciate you joining us on the show. So you have taught in the MBA and EMBA programs, as well as the Executive Development Program at Texas A&M. You did your BA at Hastings College.
Right. Hastings College in southern Nebraska.
Okay. And then got an MS at the University of Wyoming, from what I can see here. And then you did your PhD at the University of Arizona. So you've been kind of all over the place educationally.
I have been. I've been here for nearly 30 years, and I've sort of had memories of those other places fade over the years. So I've become a complete Aggie over time, and I've truly loved the time that I've spent here.
So I'm going to go out of order a little bit today. Normally we have an icebreaker question that we ask first, but I'm going to piggyback on something that you just said and ask you, especially in 2018, having spent the majority of your career at one place, what makes you happiest or most proud about that? Or what do you think is your most unique thought or feeling about having been in one place for almost all of your professional time?
The thing that resonates so strongly for me is that the first day I set foot on this campus when I was interviewing for a job here, I felt like I had come home culturally. So living in northern Nebraska, those were my formative years. When I came here, it was the first time since I'd left there that I felt like I was back home. And so I feel like I'm living in something that's really familiar. And I feel like I'm living in a place that appreciates and values me. And it's a place where I can make a contribution, and the people around me will recognize that I've made a contribution and will appreciate it. They'll value that.
I know exactly what you mean, but sometimes I feel like it's cheating for me to say it because I grew up here. So, but I also felt coming back to the MBA program, it did feel a little bit like coming home in more ways than one.
Yes.
So I'm going to skip back now because I love this question, and we ask it of all of our guests. What is your favorite superpower?
My favorite superpower. Well, I think flying. What can beat that, really? It's the one thing that seems to be in common with all the superheroes, too. There's just a few superheroes that lack that particular ability. So I think if I could have any superpower, it would definitely be the ability to fly.
Flying is pretty cool. So going back to Mays and your time here, you've been here a while. How have you seen our business school change in the time that you've spent here? What's different? Mays 2018, Mays late 80s. What?
Well, the entire time I've been here, this institution has been growing and it's been getting better. So if we think about it qualitatively, we have been on an upward trajectory the entire 30 years that I have been here. I can give you a few for instances. So when I first arrived here, it was common that research faculty would teach 5 courses per year. Well, teaching 5 courses takes a lot of time, and it takes time away from research productivity that presumably is valued. And so over time, that teaching requirement has diminished to the point where most of our research faculty teach 3 courses per year. And that has manifested in much more research productivity, which in turn has manifested in much higher rankings for the college, especially on the research dimension. But what that allows you to do when you start to get recognition for being scholastic is that you start attracting people who identify with that and who want to be a part of that. So over time, the quality of our faculty has improved dramatically. And of course, if you get better quality, that's a magnet for better students. And so over time, the quality of our students has also improved dramatically. And it's been very synergistic so that if you look at any of the rankings, it's not just the scholastic or research-oriented rankings on which we have improved, but also if you want to look at any qualitative metrics on the student side, we've certainly improved there a great deal too, such that we show up in almost all the national rankings. And, so to keep that all kind of going together on this upward trajectory, it's been an amazing thing to be a part of and an amazing thing to observe. Sure. And I don't see that it's going to change anytime soon. That's the beautiful thing. I think we're going to continue on this trajectory.
That's great. So you obviously have a significant impact on graduate students here, but the upward trajectory that you just talked about, what was something that you pushed for? What do you think, what are you proudest of in terms of a specific thing that you did that might not have been a popular choice at the time, or that you got some pushback on, that you really believed in and said, no, this is something that I want to do and I think is important for our progress here?
That's a fairly easy one. For 10 years, I ran the PhD program in accounting. And in the recruitment of PhD students, one of the things that I was always striving to do was recruit diversity. And recruiting diversity is so important because students who come to an institution want to see people that look like them, people that they can relate to. And during the time that I ran the PhD program, we had a very diverse student body, and I'm most proud of that.
What will you miss most about your job being the outgoing assistant dean for graduate programs? What will you miss most?
The thing I'll miss most, I'm not going to miss it all because I'm going to keep doing it. That's teaching students. So the administrative aspects of my job are really what I'm surrendering at this point in time. I'm leaving here with agreements to continue teaching PMBA and EMBA students. And I enjoy that immensely. And so at least for the foreseeable future, I will continue to do that. I will miss the daily interaction with my colleagues on the third floor of the Wayner building. It's an outstanding group of people, and I admire them personally and professionally. I will miss that interaction.
What is your most memorable experience from the last 28 years?
I think it's lately. The thing that I cannot deny is that being a part of the graduate programs office for the past couple of years, you not only teach principles of self-awareness and self-actualization, but you become part of that, so that it's certainly true that we are transforming students in this enterprise that we run. But what you're not paying attention to as that's occurring is how you're transforming yourself. And so I've grown in self-awareness in the past couple of years to the point where it's allowing me to leave this position and go seek something that I'm drawn to do, which is impact other people. So I am so blessed because late in my career, I started doing this administrative job surrounded by these extremely talented people and extremely talented students. And just being a part of that culture has allowed me to continue to evolve to the point where it's time for me to move on and go do something else and see what I can become in my later years in life.
Mm-hmm. So you've seen a variety of students go through Mays, various generations. How have this was a question I've been really looking forward to. How have students changed over time? What is your perception of today's undergraduate student, of today's graduate student, relative to what you were dealing with when you first came in?
Oh, that is a great question. And I know we read a lot about millennials and Gen Y and so forth, that these people are somehow different than the people that preceded them, the generations that came before. In my experience, that's not necessarily true. I think that Texas A&M, we rally around a certain set of values that attracts people who are likely to also value those particular things. So the fact that the millennials and the Gen Y and so forth are now starting to flow through our programs, one would perhaps expect that we would see these differences in behaviors from prior generations. That's not my experience. People still want to succeed. People still will work hard in order to succeed. There are some differences in terms of expectations as to how quickly things might become, for example, how quickly one might become successful upon completion of the program and so forth. But we're still transforming people like we always have. And the people who are coming into our MBA programs, for example, are leaving, at much higher salaries and in positions that they would never have achieved before. So the point being, the basic process of education here has not changed. The success of our educational model has not changed. So we are still recruiting and we are still graduating people who are going to succeed in this contemporary world. And I think that's will continue again for a long time to come. So while there might be nuances that distinguish prior generations and current generations, I think the basic core values that we all rally around is what bring us together at this particular institution. And that sets the foundation for all of us to be successful and to be consistently successful.
I'm gonna go off book for just a second. So in terms of innovation, the way that we teach, I know, so something that I would say that has changed, and a lot of people would say that this is not necessarily for the better. I think that it is neutral. It's not necessarily better or worse, but attention spans I do think are a little bit shorter. And that's for everybody across the board. That's not just for young people. So in terms of how we teach people in 2018, what do you think are some of the most important steps that Texas A&M and that Mays Business School have taken to effectively teach people who have shorter attention spans and want to see things they learn best in possibly different ways than we might have seen previously?
There are a lot of innovations that are both kind of at the root cause of this short attention span and also in part a cure for it. So, for example, we have a lot of video content that you can consume at your leisure and consume in bite-sized pieces. We also have other aspects of our curriculum, our pedagogical features, things like PowerPoints and other sort of study aids where you can go offline or online and absorb these in the way that suits you. So I think what we see is that people have personal learning styles that are recognized, and they wouldn't have been necessarily recognized years ago. Everybody would have been put in the same box, expected to learn in the same fashion. Today, people are given more options to follow the path that makes sense for them, that works for them in terms of their learning style. So I think we do have, through technologies like all the online platforms that are out there supporting textbooks and supporting broader pedagogy like Blackboard, for example. These are all technologies that allow students to revisit topics, to go look at videos that relate to topics, to get together in a chat room with their colleagues and hash out a topic. So there's all kinds of technologies out there which both, I think, add to the short attention span, but then cater to it in terms of learning. So I think we're levering all of those kinds of things today in our courses.
In terms of how we've grown over your time here, in what ways has Mays changed in a way that you would have expected? And in what ways has it changed in a way that you might not have expected, either for better or maybe for not as good? Go ahead.
So I don't like, there's not much I can talk about that's not positive. I mean, I've obviously been here for 30 years. I've had opportunities to be elsewhere, but I've chosen to be here because it fits me, or I fit it more appropriately. So I think that the way we've changed over time is we've just grown more rigorous, but we've adhered to these same consistent values. So we do respect each other. We are loyal. We do preach leadership. We all do have integrity. We all do have selfless service. We all do subscribe to excellence. So these values that are the values of Texas A&M are timeless, and they're values that if we can find other people who see them as we do, as things we should adhere to and support and engender, then when we recruit higher quality students who also have this same mental commitment to these values, we get better outcomes. So the thing that's changed over time is just the quality of the inputs. The quality of the inputs improves the quality of the outputs, but the process hasn't changed that much. We're really working around these strong core values, and I think that's why we've been successful. And that's what's made it so comfortable for me to be here for this period of time, is I've always understood who we are. I've never wavered on that. I've always known who we are.
That's honestly not that surprising to hear. I feel like identity here is very clear. So let me push on you a little bit then. So were you able to achieve everything you wanted in your time here, or more specifically, do you have any regrets about anything that happened while you were here?
I do. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, so you choose a path, right? I would like to have spent more time doing research, but then I asked myself, what would I have given up in order for that to be possible? I wouldn't give up anything that I've done in order to do more research. I could be more recognized in my field had I published more, but I wouldn't at this point in time. Had I done that, I would be sitting here expressing my regrets that I hadn't spent more time with students. So in the end, I've chosen the path that I wanted to go down, and I'm very happy I did.
So you talked a little bit earlier about what you're going to be doing now that you're stepping away from your current role, but it sounds like a lot of what you're doing is not going to change. As far as what is going to change, you may have answered this question already, but what are you looking forward to in particular about things that will be different from what they were before?
Well, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I've grown in my own self-awareness of who I am and what I can be. And I'm not all that I can be. I mean, I have opportunity to grow immensely, I think, particularly in serving my family. So one of my goals is going to be a better father and grandfather, and to be more present. And so that's very personal, but takes time. It's going to be time that I will commit to that's going to come from what was previously professional time. So I've taken some of my total day and freed it up. And so I want to give some of that to the places where I can have an impact close to home. And over time, I'll find other ways that I can make contributions too. But I'm looking forward to the freedom that the additional time will give me to figure out exactly, who I can become and how I can impact my family.
Why do you think in culture, I think there's been a shift in American culture. I was talking with some friends yesterday about how things have changed in terms of what is expected, both of men and women. But I think especially among men, there was a pride previously in how much time can you spend at your desk. And now there are still many people who burn the midnight oil, but I think there is an increased emphasis on work-life balance and a more holistic approach to life. And I think people take pride in finding balance now in a way that maybe wasn't true 20, 30 years ago, and take pride in helping each other find balance. What do you think has led to that? And what do you think the results of that are for our culture?
Well, I think if you look at society, you can make the case that the lack of work-life balance has created some social ills. And I won't enumerate those because it's speculative. But certainly it's my position that work-life balance creates healthy society, and that it creates strong nuclear families that can succeed and that can withstand the ups and downs of life. And so I think we certainly have over time. We had gotten away from any kind of work-life balance. We thought back in the 60s when we started to leverage technology that would all be working 30-hour work weeks and so forth, and productivity would skyrocket because we would be leveraging this technology so successfully. But instead, the technology kind of invaded our lives and has become a pervasive influence to allow us to stay connected to work 24 hours a day, and many of us have been doing that. So I think there's a growing recognition of just that we have an imbalance, and some people are deliberately taking steps to try to get back to a more balanced life. And what's creating the awareness, I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's just a growing sense that there's something else besides work that leads to personal satisfaction, personal growth, impact, contribution, and so forth. So I don't know there's any one thing that creates the awareness, but certainly I agree with you that there is a growing sense of imbalance, and people are acting on that recognition.
you mentioned the effects of technology. I mean, obviously, this podcast is we're grateful for the opportunity to give people this content. But I hear. I appreciate the breadth of content that we have available on demand. That's definitely one of the goods that has come out of technology. And I hear you're an avid podcast listener as well. What are some of your favorites?
Oh, okay. So to be clear, I'm a kind of a YouTube listener.
Oh, I see.
When I'm driving. So I don't watch YouTube. I am a YouTube listener as I drive. And what I try to do is entertain myself. So this is not educational in any way. So here are my favorite ones. One Lonely Farmer is kind of at the top of the list. Bill's T-Max, who's a guy that runs a cemetery in Ontario, Canada. That's one of my favorite ones as well. Lately, I've been listening to Ron Pratt, who runs a wrecker service in Missouri. So those are examples of the type of stuff I listen to.
The classics.
The classics, yes.
So I want to hear more about the guy who runs the cemetery. Like, are these just basically like YouTube sitcoms? Like they get into shenanigans running the cemetery? What's happening?
This is a guy that has like 150,000 subscribers, and it's about the daily care and maintenance of a cemetery and his life. He maintains the equipment. He mows all the grass. He buries people. So all of that. He's an entertaining guy. There's no question about that. But it's just intriguing. The breadth of the skills this guy has in terms of managing a cemetery and doing all the detailed work that goes on there.
I'm fascinated by the kind of person. I'm probably going to go like watch at least an episode of this. I'm fascinated by the type of person that would manage a cemetery.
Yeah.
This guy is like upbeat and happy.
Yes, he is. Very much so. Very much
That's
so.
fascinating. So is there, if you had to recommend one thing for YouTube listening in the car, if you had to pick one, which one would it be?
So I like One Lonely Farmer because he is a philosopher at heart, and he has a lot of common sense, and he has an inclination to share it. So he comments a lot on contemporary things in society. He's not a highly educated man, but he's a smart man. He's an observant man. Mm-hmm. And he shares his views from the heart. They're unfiltered. The language is unfiltered. I should warn you about that. Mm-hmm. But the insights are incredible. And whether he's out baling hay or he's driving a truck down the highway delivering hay, he likes to talk as he goes, and he has just some incredible insightful thoughts to share with people, and with such sincerity.
So on the subject of large properties, I hear you have a 500-acre ranch you've been managing while working at Mays. That's like another planet to me. Tell me about how that has worked, how you managed all that.
Okay, so I come from an agricultural family. I'm the first generation to get any kind of college degree. And so my history is a cattle business, and from northern Nebraska. So about 16 years ago, we bought property here that we've been developing into a ranch. It's about getting back to my roots and doing those things that I enjoy and that challenge me, frankly. So we have 530 acres in Madison County, and there we raise Brangus cattle. So we have about 175 mama cows and their babies and the bulls, and carry the calves over year to year. So on any given day, we'll have about 400 head of bovines out there. Mm-hmm. And it's something my wife and I do together. We work closely together. And we both come from that heritage where we know what we're doing in this space. But it keeps us grounded. It keeps us humble. And whenever we're not doing something else, it gives us something to do.
The extent of my agricultural knowledge is mowing my own lawn from time to time. So tell me about Brangus cattle. What are the hallmarks of these? Why them as opposed to some other kind of cow?
So the Brahma breed is in about 2/3 of the cattle in this country.
Okay. And
Brahma cattle have an advantage in terms of dry and hot climates. So they can withstand actually, this particular climate we have here in Texas with the warm summers and so forth, better than other breeds can. Mm. And it was actually just south of here, down around Matagorda, where there's a gentleman from the Old West named Shanghai Pierce who toured the world trying to find cattle that would work in Texas. And the Brahma breed is what he found. So from the mid 1800s or so forward, those cattle have been crossbred with other European and other breeds of cattle. So the Angus is a United Kingdom breed from the UK originally. And of course, Brahma come from India originally, but they are omnipresent here. So the Brangus cattle are a cross between Angus and Brahma, and they do very, very well in this climate.
You said this gentleman's first name is Shanghai?
Shanghai. I don't think that was his given name. I'm going to assume it was not.
I'm going to name my firstborn Shanghai. What do you think is people's biggest misconception of you?
I think people know me pretty well. I don't say a whole lot unless I'm given an occasion to. So I don't feel obliged to talk much. So I suppose people might think that I'm quiet, and they certainly think that I'm introverted, and those are just two accurate perceptions. So I think people have me pretty well nailed down. What people probably don't understand about me is, my really the deep inner person that I am in terms of my core values and what I stand for. But I do try to live those things, so maybe I give a glimpse of that every now and then.
They might also not know that you have a 500-acre Brangus ranch.
They might not know that. I don't talk about that a whole lot.
So, if you could have anyone as a mentor for one day, who would it be?
My dad. Yeah, there's no hesitation there. He's still living. He and my mom just celebrated their 65th wedding anniversary. And my dad is a person I've looked up to my whole life, and I still do. I still call him for advice today. So, yeah, he's been, here I am in my 60s. How lucky is that to still have your dad there?
No
as a
question.
person you can lean on.
Well, congratulations to them, and that's a beautiful thing to hear. What is we'll close with some good bull. We like to close out with recognizing others for something nice or great that they may have done. You have any good bull for us today?
Well, let's see. So I think that we have a new program joining the graduate programs office in 1st of September. It all becomes official. So we have the MS Analytics that will be a new master's degree in Mays. And we're acquiring a couple of people as that program migrates to Mays. And I would like to recognize Myra Gonzalez and Javier Aldape, because those two people went out and recruited a class of almost 50 people in a couple of months, really.
Goodness.
It was amazing effort, and they did it without a whole lot of support from us or a whole lot of support from anyone else. So I think they did an amazing job of closing out the recruiting efforts of that class that they just matriculated. So I was down there last week, and there are 47 brand new students coming to Mays that those two people are responsible for putting in the seats.
Well done. I have not met these two, but that's extremely impressive. So that is our show for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to the Mays MasterCast, and thank you, Dr. Kinney, for taking the time to join us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, and gig 'em.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to stay up to date on our latest videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. If you're in a rush or on the road, you can still join us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. If you want to learn more about us or our guests, please visit our website at mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Also, please check out Mays Business School's academic programs. They're the sponsors of our show, and you can find them in the description. Thanks, and gig 'em.